Thank you for tuning in to Sunday Dinner. I'm your host, Zach Radio, and I'm super excited for the guest today on this chill, relaxed, post Art Basel episode. Someone who is really killing it from a director standpoint and from an art standpoint. Someone who I've been really tapped in with from a research standpoint and really liking what he's done thus far and really excited what's to come in the future. So I want to invite Josh, also known as GlassFace. How you doing, my guy?
Doing well. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. It's a chill week. I didn't go to Art Basel, and so I've just been really focused in on everything that I've got going on. But how are you feeling? I know you were kind of under the weather. How you feeling?
I'm like almost fully recovered. I also didn't go to Art Basel. Just been at home in LA all week, a little bit sick, but yeah, definitely feeling a lot better today. It's a pretty gloomy day over here in LA, though.
Glad to hear that you're feeling a little better. But thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here, and I kind of want to kind of get into it, tap into your resume and how you kind of got into to what you got into prior to being a part of Web3. So I didn't know a lot about you prior to Web3, but when I started doing my research, you're an established director who's directed quite a few videos, commercials, different series. Can you kind of tell me how did you get it into film?
Yeah, so it's been kind of like a windy journey to get to where I am now. But originally, I started out as a graphic designer about over 10 years ago now. And I kind of initially was going into advertising, marketing, branding design, logo design, sort of working with like pharmaceutical clients, like really generic um, clients. And I kind of got sick of it pretty quickly and was living in New York City about 10 years ago. And I started going out and shooting concerts, putting together concert recaps while I was working a day job as a graphic designer. And I started to kind of just flex my editing skills and putting out these concert recaps to the world and kind of just showing like what I could do and just kind of having fun with that work. Um, so those started getting picked up and seen, by blogs and different artists, and that kind of developed into me being asked to do music videos for people, which was kind of like natural to my style anyway, that I was developing as an editor. So yeah, I kind of just started building from there. Did music videos for like Absol, Smoke Dizza, OG Mako. Just kind of started working with anybody and everybody who would work with me. Um, and yeah, just started kind of developing my own style. And then yeah, between 2011 and 2015, I think I worked on over 200 music videos. I started just trying to be like the go-to for VFX editing, experimental styles, um, and just kind of yeah, I tried to make myself like a destination for just sort of interesting experimental music videos, and just kept building. And yeah, at this point, I probably am at like 500 music videos that I've worked on, between directing, editing, VFX, and yeah, and then that kind of built into working on commercials. I like I had said, I had already been working in marketing and branding for quite a while, so it was kind of natural to come back around and work on commercials. Ended up working on a Target commercial with Lil Yachty and Carly Rae Jepsen that aired during the Grammys in 2016. And that was one of my first big commercial jobs. And then I continued to build from there. Ended up working on a commercial for Adidas. I moved to LA a few years ago and really honed in on commercials and started working with Adidas and Google. And yeah, just consistently just been building and really just had my head down for many years, um, building out the portfolio. And yeah, so that's kind of the rough overview of how I got to where I am now.
So one of the videos that you just previously mentioned, that is actually a super dope video, and I want to know what was your experience doing the Little Yachty video one night.
Yeah, so that was a super fun one. So that one actually came out because I did the a video for OG Mako called "You Guessed It," which was actually my first viral video that I had done. And the "You Guessed It" video was super quickly done. Like we were basically just in the hotel with OG Mako at a festival called Trilectro, and I think
Was
20.
was that the one in DC?
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Oh, do they even still have that festival? Not to cut you off, but they even still do that festival because it was pretty legendary.
I think they stopped doing it. Yeah, a few years ago, I think they stopped. But
Okay,
yeah,
got
it
you.
was definitely a legendary festival. But yeah, so we had done that video, um, and it was super run and gun, literally just running around the hotel. We shot it on like Saturday night at 3 in the morning. Drove back to New York. I edited it the next day, and then I think we put it out on that Tuesday. And that video went on to get, I think, 120 million views pretty quickly. And that kind of started my relationship with QC, Quality Control Records, which is who Lil Yachty, Migos signed to. And I guess when Lil Yachty kind of started his career, he was a huge fan of that video and basically told QC, like, I need to work with these guys. I need a video from these guys. Um, so yeah, that's how the one night video came about. We essentially met up in New York, basically just planned out a full day with him. First half of the day, we rented a yacht that we rode around New York for a couple hours and got a bunch of footage. It was freezing cold. It was pretty intense experience, but super fun. Then we came back to a green screen studio in New York, shot for probably another 6 or 7 hours, had all sorts of like well known internet kids come through, streetwear people, to do cameos. And it was basically just a super fun, like open set, very run and gun. We just had like a wardrobe rack with tons of props and different outfits, and we just encouraged people to kind of put on whatever you want and just have fun with it. And then I took that home, took the footage home, edited for about 3 weeks on that, and just tried to go as crazy as possible with like a very internet art DIY style that kind of matched with the feel of the song. And yeah, and then that video went on. I think that one's around 150 million views. Definitely one of my biggest videos and Yachty's as well. Um, and yeah, the song went on to go platinum. So yeah, that was definitely a really big stepping stone for me and really fun experience.
I do rock with Little Yachty heavy, and that, in my opinion, that's one of his biggest songs from a number standpoint. So it's pretty dope that you were a part of that. And like I said before, the video was it fit the record itself. But you said it took 3 weeks to edit. Is that normal to do that type of editing for it to take that long?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, yeah, 1 to 2 weeks is probably average for a music video. depends, like how complex you're trying to get with it. For me, I was really trying to like create and introduce new styles. So for me, if I work on a music video, I'll put in 3, sometimes like 6 weeks on certain videos if I have the time. Um, so yeah, it really just depends. Like for my style, it's very layered and mixed media. So there's like a lot of different processes happening throughout it. So like it takes a little bit longer just to get that style across.
So kind of taking a step forward, you being a director, but now you're heavy into Web3 and NFTs and the blockchain. How were you onboarded into Web3?
Yeah, great question. It actually comes back to Yachty again. I was kind of tracking the space for quite a while. Um, Became aware of NFTs like 2020, late 2019, and was just kind of watching it for a while. And then actually, Lil Yachty's team came to me and they wanted to do a token. So I actually helped just on the visual side for his token, which was like one of the first artist driven tokens, which is called Yachty Coin. And we dropped that. I believe it dropped on Super Rare, and that was like I want to say that was in 2020. So that was my first kind of exposure to actually getting into Web3. And then after that, I was excited about the space and really wanted to drop some of my own art. So I joined Foundation and I joined Rarible as well pretty early on, and just started dropping my own solo pieces. And it was kind of new to me, being somebody who kind of always worked on other people's art and was always like tailoring art to somebody else's vision. I took some time to really figure out like what I wanted to say and what I wanted to bring to the table as an artist. So yeah, just started kind of experimenting and dropping pieces, and yeah, and just built from there.
So doing my research on your resume, you're of course known as a director, but I'm seeing a lot of artwork from you, and we'll touch on that. But let's talk about the music side. How did you get into doing your own music and creating records?
So yeah, the entire time, and actually before I really started creating visuals, um, I was making music. I grew up playing piano since I was about 4 years old, um, and just kind of like was always a huge fan of music. My dad studied music theory and taught me a lot about it. And so, yeah, I was always kind of tuned into it. And then started producing music like in high school, just for fun, making instrumentals. Um, and yeah, I just kind of always kept at it behind the scenes and never really put anything out. Um, Partially because like my career was going towards the visual side. That's kind of where I was making my money. Um, and it was just like, the idea of being a musician was kind of like a pipe dream. It was, something that I didn't really take too seriously. But 10 years later, I'm still making music and like continuing to progress and get better and better. And I kind of just realized like I can do music and I can be a visual artist and I can be a director. Like there's really no limitation to any creative. And I kind of saw like a mission in showing people that like you can do all these different things. Like there's really no limits. If you're passionate about the art you're creating, the music you're creating, like just make the best possible thing and put it out to the world. And that's kind of where I am now. And yeah, I've just been building up these demos for years and really just honed in this year and started dropping a lot. I've actually dropped 4 songs in the past 4 months. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and there's a lot more to come as well on the music side.
On the continuous topic of your music, I was looking at the video that you did for Summer's Over. What inspired that video? Because that video is unique, and super dope at the same time. So can you kind of what inspired that?
Thank you. Yeah, I should pin that up as well. Um, so yeah, so when I started dropping songs, I also started shooting music videos for them. And initially, I was taking like the typical approach of like, let me hire a big crew, let me kind of approach this how a label would, um, and trying to do like really high production value music videos, full shoots, multiple days. And I realized like I kind of didn't want to do that with my own stuff, and I didn't really need to, because like I think a lot of the value I bring to my work is in the post production process and also just in the conceptual side. So for Summer's Over, I shot that on an iPhone. Um, Basically, the only money I spent was to get an underwater housing for my iPhone. It was like $50, and yeah, just went to a pool. Basically, shot a bunch of scenes in the pool with me like falling in, me kind of sitting underwater, looking around, um, and kind of took that footage home, started editing it, started looking at different ways I could treat it. And then I actually started using AI on the footage and like trying some experimental techniques where I actually trained the AI to recreate my likeness, which is part of another project that I'll talk about in a little bit. But I sort of tried to create a new style around um, AI plus live action footage and kind of seamlessly merging them. And then kind of combine that with some 3D animation, some 2D animation as well that a couple friends helped out with. And yeah, just kind of cut that together. That one was probably also like a 3 week edit that I was kind of just piecing together as I went and seeing like what I liked the best and kind of letting the piece like put itself together, if that makes sense. So yeah.
That makes plenty of sense. And watching that video for Summer's Over, it's kind of crazy that you just like casually just I used the iPhone. I bought a little protector for my going to the water, $50, because you when you look at it, you see so much technique, I guess, in the editing and the visuals. If you haven't seen the video is insane. So the fact that you just used the iPhone, but it took you 3 weeks to edit, it looks like it was a process when it came to the editing, but it came out magnificent in my opinion. So super dope in that regard. But you kind of touched on it about getting into AI artwork. Can you kind of what put you on to the AI side of artwork?
Yeah, so the AI journey has also been kind of a long and windy one. Um, I think like the first introduction I had to AI art was probably Google Deep Dream, which was one of their early, more of like a style transfer software. Um, and I'm sure people have seen it before. It's been around for quite a few years. But it kind of did these like infinite fractal zooms where it was applying like these reptilian textures, and like it was kind of creepy to look at, but it was like mind blowing to see for the first time. Um, so that was kind of my first exposure like several years ago, and I started just keeping track of that as well, and just kind of like just seeing what was going on in that world. Um, and then I started working with Style Transfer more, a program called Ebsynth. where I would kind of apply textures to live action footage, which is also similar to what I did in Summer's Over. Um, and yeah, just kept kind of using these techniques like sporadically in music videos, not even really mentioning it as, part of the approach. Um, and yeah, just kept clocking the tools. And then about 2 years ago, I started to see text to image AI becoming more prominent, and I was just fascinated by it, and really just like, I think that's what really really drew me into AI and got me like fully participating with it. Um, and so yeah, I just started like tapping into the different discords, different communities that were building around it, learning about like Google Colab notebooks, and just trying all of the possible, different notebooks programs that were coming out. Um, it was really super DIY and still is, like, in a lot of ways, when I got into it. And yeah, so I just kept really just tapping into it as much as possible, and trying to like discover um, my own approaches to it, and my own ways that I could use it in my process.
No, that makes complete sense. And one thing that I really want to learn more about is the process and procedures when it comes to AI art. And just hearing you speak and the time that it takes to finalize a music video using AI, it doesn't seem as plug and play as people may think in certain aspects. Can you kind of talk about the levels of using AI in with your experience? If the alarm's still not going off.
Yeah, I think it's done. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can use it, and like, I think it's an interesting time to be talking about it right now. Um, I'm just like, I'm seeing it kind of hit a tipping point in the mainstream where, like, I don't know if anybody was on Instagram recently, but everyone's posting these AI portraits made by like the Lensa app, um, which is like, it seems to be a very like streamlined, mainstream approach that I think is like really tapping in with a lot of people. Um, so I think like it's hitting a point where almost anyone can use AI at one level or another. But I think if you really, really want to utilize it as a medium and a tool and something that can like empower your process, there's like a million different ways that you can do that. Um, there's entry level stuff like Mid Journey, Dolly, that allow you to do simple text to image prompting, very easy to use, very like out the box, ready to go. And then there's like tons of, like I said, DIY notebooks, Google Colab notebooks that come out, that can do all sorts of different functions. So I think like for me, I've always been somebody who will take all of these different pieces and figure out a really unique and like impossible to recreate workflow with them. So I'm using Stable Diffusion, I'm using some Mid Journey, I'm using Dolly to help with like outpainting, and I'm kind of just taking little bits and pieces from each tool and kind of incorporating them together into a process that's like I said, impossible to recreate. But I think, yeah, for somebody who wants to get involved in AI art, there's like a million different entry points right now, and I think it's going to keep growing. So I think it's at a really interesting point, and I think this next year, like, it's going to become more and more mainstream. I think we're already seeing that right now with all of the discussion around it. And yeah, I think it's like, even outside of art, it's already extremely mainstream and embedded in like every single industry.
I do definitely agree with that statement, but like I'm looking at AI artwork. You It looks very similar to to hand drawings, and you really can't tell the difference. Is there like a way to actually tell that something is AI without knowing that it's actually done AI?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a definitive way to tell. I know they are actually training AI to be able to determine if something is created by AI or if it's created by the human hand. Um, but it is, yeah, it's a good question because like it's very difficult to tell. I think a lot of like myself and a lot of people who have been working with AI for a while, you can kind of recognize it when you see it. It has like this uncanny quality to it. Something about the lines and how they connect to each other. Like there's something artificial there that sometimes I can notice, but a lot of the times you can't tell, and it's getting better and better to the point where you know it's hitting that point where you may not be able to tell 6 months from now whether something is AI or not. And that's also kind of leads into the project that I'm working on now, which is called 2,222 Glass Faces. Um, it's essentially a, a deep fake project where I've created thousands of images of myself using AI. And basically, I'm trying to create this like artificial history of myself and my past through images, and really raising that question of like, can you tell if these are real or not, and does it even matter? Like, is seeing the image enough to kind of cement somebody's perception about somebody? um, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on now. I pinned to the top a tweet that has, these are 4 images that are AI generated, completely AI generated. Like I didn't input anything. I've just trained this AI on my likeness. And then it also links to the Summer's Over video that we were talking about.
The fact that you can train the AI to understand your likeness and build on your likeness is it's insane, but that's what technology is today. And so I just can't wait to see how that continues to develop. One project that you were a part of from a design standpoint, you did it was the Janae Aiko featuring Ty Dolla Sign. That performance, you did the layout of the actual stage in the presentation, correct?
I actually directed Janae's portion.
Okay.
So an interesting thing about that is that she was not actually on set with Ty Dolla Sign. We actually shot fully in a green screen studio or blue screen studio, and combined it into a performance of Ty. She it was basically just a scheduling thing. Like she wasn't able to make it that day. So yeah, I directed her scenes, and then we composited her into the scene with Ty Dolla Sign, and then actually replaced the entire background, the entire scene. Like we shot in the hills, in the Hollywood Hills, in like this beautiful skyline overlook, and then we actually changed out the entire environment, and yeah, composited her into it. And then I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel Live or Jimmy Fallon. Um, but yeah, that was my part of it. I was the director for her scenes.
The fact that you couldn't tell that she wasn't on site with Ty Dolla Sign is mind boggling to me to hear that, because when you watch the video, it looks like they were side by side with DJ Mustard in the back DJing. Like you could never tell. So that's crazy.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one, and it was yeah, kind of a very dystopian approach to a performance. Um, but yeah, it is super interesting that like it is hard to tell or impossible to tell that it was actually fake.
Yeah, it's damn near impossible to tell that it was not real at whatsoever, but it looked dope as fuck. But with that being said, you've done so much thus far in your career. I've seen that you did a collaboration with Google Pixel called the Ultra Dreamers video series. What inspired that, and what can you give details regarding that series for those who aren't aware of it?
Yeah, so I've been working with Google for about 3 years now. Started working with them actually right before COVID. And they have a program called Creator Labs, which they basically bring in about 10 to 20 artists, photographers per season. It's pretty much quarterly, so 4 times a year. They have different artists take their phone, which is the Google Pixel, and we go out and shoot either video or photo content. Um, my all of the projects are supposed to be kind of built around a social issue or something that's important to the artist. So I focused around mental health. Um, for me, anxiety, depression, all of that stuff is present, has been present throughout my career as a creative, and I wanted to highlight that for other creatives as well. So I created a series called Ultra Dreamer, where I kind of highlight artists, photographers, musicians, directors, producers, and I kind of highlight them as creative superheroes, and I try to show them in the light of like the absolute highest a creative could go, and try to capture that in photos. Initially, I was shooting video and doing more documentary approach to the project, uh, and yeah, it's been super fun. There's 3 video versions of it called Ultra Dreamer, that you can find on Google, or sorry, on YouTube, and then several photos, and they're doing like live gallery exhibits in New York around each season. So I actually just shot the most recent season, and that'll come out in a couple weeks. And yeah, it's been a super fun project.
Super dope. You're popping in Web3, you're popping in IRL. What are or who are some artists in Web3 that you would like to collab with that you haven't already, if any?
Ooh, good question. I mean, there's a lot. Like I haven't done a ton of collabs in the space directly with artists, but I would love to. Um, I love the artist named Wrath, uh, Sarwa. Um, she's super dope, 3D artist. I'm a huge fan of Holly Herndon, as many people know. Holly and Matt Dryhurst, who are leaders in the AI art space. So I'd love to do something with them. Um, I love Fiwo and like a lot of the quote unquote OGs in the space. So yeah, like I said, I haven't done a ton of just direct collabs with artists. Kind of just had my head down, just working on my own conceptual projects. But there's definitely a lot of people in the space that I'm looking at and would love to work with.
Being a director and growing up, music videos were everything for me. And like seeing like Dave Myers, Little X, Hype Williams, those artists, those directors who literally transition music because their vision made the song just that much better and amplified what the artist was trying to create. Who are some directors that inspired you?
Yeah, you definitely named a few. I would also say Dave Myers, Hype Williams, Spike Jones is really big for me. And I was definitely the same. Like I would get home from school, I would turn on TRL, I would watch 106 in Park, Rhapsody in the Basement. I would watch every single music video. To me, that was like it's always been its own art form, and it's always been something that was like really defining for my upbringing, and kind of like just how I saw the world a lot of the time was through music video. So yeah, I would definitely say yeah, those are probably my top 3. Yeah, Dave Myers, Hype Williams, Spike Jones, and yeah, it was definitely like I was definitely very much the same, and I think I almost think as an artist in the language of music videos. Um, And I think that's why, like, when I had the chance to kind of work on whatever I wanted to, that's why I really gravitated towards that.
Super dope. You work with some big companies. What are some of the most memorable collabs that you've done thus far, whether it's like a Google or a specific musician that you worked with on multiple occasions that you learned a lot and it was an experience that you would never forget?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've worked with somebody who's one of my best friends. He goes by Toby Liu. Worked with him on around 20 music videos at this point. Um, and we kind of like came up together. You know, my one of my first big music videos was with him, and then we went on to make tons and tons of work. And kind of like I learned how to direct music videos by directing his music videos. Um, so I would say like a lot of the work that I've done with him. We have a video called Troop that features Smino. It's still one of my favorite music videos. I would say that was like a very formative and memorable project for me, and kind of all the stuff that I worked on with him. And then in terms of like big projects, definitely, you know, working on an Adidas commercial that I directed as soon as I got to LA, that starred Kylie Jenner. That was like a huge one for me, you know, going from having a crew of maybe 10 people to having a crew of 100 people and like, you know, massive budgets. Um, that that particular project was also very memorable and formative for me. And just seeing like how the commercial world works and what it's like to kind of expand your vision and really be able to execute literally anything you could think of, really opened my eyes. We got to work with the the team from The Dark Knight that did the pursuit cars. So basically, you have like a giant crane on top of an SUV, and you're driving around and filming another car. Um, and yeah, being able to do that, you know, driving through the desert and doing these extremely high production value shoots was like very exciting for me, and definitely um, helped kind of shape me to get to this point that I'm at now.
Most recently in this Web3 ecosystem of ours, there's been a conversation about royalties and artists getting royalties for their work. What's your perception on the royalties conversation at this time?
I think artists should always get royalties for their work. That's the I haven't really been tracking too much like where we're at with it now. I know OpenSea was made some changes like based on newer collections dropping, and I've heard that like some other platforms are talking about removing that, and making it more of like an opt-in thing. But yeah, I think it's kind of the antithesis of why the space started, and I think, you know, to take away royalties is kind of a greedy move, as I understand it. Um, and yeah, I think, you know, the reason most artists got into the space is because it's supposed to be more equitable. It's supposed to actually pay artists, and yeah, that's what I would like to see happen, you know, moving forward.
Well said. I never want to assume anything, but I figured that was the mindset because it makes sense in that regard, making sure artists get royalties because that's why a lot of us are in Web3 because Web2 wasn't doing what it should be doing, especially for musicians and artists. But with that being said, you mentioned some of the people that inspire you. What are your dream collabs and partnerships that you would love to do?
Like outside of Web3, just in general.
Just overall.
Yeah, so um, I'm actually working on one currently with one of my favorite artists of all time. Uh, can't really say too much about it, but it involves high fashion. Um, yeah, I'm designing some parts of a fashion line, Also using AI art heavily in the process. So that's been one. I wish I could say who it was. Definitely a big artist. Definitely somebody you've heard of. Definitely a very exciting project. But I would say like that was something that was on my bucket list, and I'm now able to check that off. Previously wanted to work with some other big artists. One of which was, I'll say, Kanye, and I have no longer any interest in working with that artist. Um, so that's kind of checked off the list. In addition, this isn't an artist I want to work with, but I've been working on a screenplay for a feature film, and that's like a huge goal of mine is to write and direct my own feature. Um, so I'm definitely you know getting pretty deep into the process there. So that's like yeah a huge goal of mine that I am in the process of checking off the list. So yeah, aside from that, I'm happy with what I've done so far, and I'm kind of like really fortunate to be able to work on kind of what I want to, and yeah, and just going where the art takes me.
Having an understanding of Web3 and NFTs, and also understanding how beneficial it is for musicians, artists, and even directors, do you see people in your line of work, in your field of work, kind of being onboarded into Web3? Because as a director, there's a lot of opportunities in Web3, and I don't maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but I don't see that many directors in the communities in the ecosystem. Do you see that changing in the near future?
I would expect it will, and I think there's going to be interesting ways, and there already are, but there will be more and more interesting ways to make it so that a director comes into Web3 and they want to drop a feature film. I think there's going to be more and more models around like that approach that makes sense and kind of draw directors into it. I think also, one thing about music videos um, is that, the directors really get no royalties, no ongoing like revenue or share in music videos, which I don't know if a lot of people know that. But I think there should be models that develop around that where if I'm a director coming in to direct, a Lil Yachty video, I can actually get a percentage of the revenue on that, indefinitely. And I think like seeing more models like that come out and ideas around those models come out, we'll see more directors come into the space and like actually have reason to utilize Web3 and blockchain.
Understood. So I want to be very mindful of your time. So I just have a couple more questions before we kind of close it out. Josh, what is some feedback that you can give to someone who is trying to get into AI?
Yeah, I think it's pretty wide open now. It's like, there's tons and tons of resources. Um, there's tons of tools out there now that pretty much anybody can use. Um, my project's that's a long term project in Web3 is called Impermanent Digital, and part of the main goal of the project is to avail resources to people who want to learn about AI. Help people get into it and help people learn about how to actually use it. So I would encourage, if anybody wants to learn more about AI, come to our Discord and just talk to us. And there's tons of people in there who have learned AI from no previous background in it. Um, and yeah, I would just say like come hang out with us. We'll teach you more about it. I think there's tons of resources out there too. If you want to learn more about it, go on YouTube, go on Google. Like there's so many resources out there, and they're going to continue to increase. Um, so yeah, I would just encourage people to just be really curious and just research and dig into it as much as possible. And that was like the most rewarding thing for me was just kind of getting obsessed with AI and just studying it. And I'm constantly learning new things about it.
No, definitely, completely understood. So with that being said, you did me a favor and you created a super dope piece, a GIF is what it's called. I'm not an artist, so if my verbiage is incorrect, please just correct me. And I told you in the DMs that I liked it a lot, but it's super dope. But for the people in the audience, I'm going to be releasing a little small series, artist series called Moments, and it's going to include artwork from different artists that I have on Sunday Dinner. And I'm super thankful that the first release will be a piece from GlassFace. And you did your thing with that, my guy. And I just wanted to say that on the space, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited for people to see it.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to publicize it tomorrow so people can actually see what's taking place and what's going on. But I just wanted to thank you for that, my guy, and shout out to Trish in the audience because she was the one that kind of put me on to your work. And from that point on, I was just super tapped into everything that you've been working on. And then I seen the videos that you've done. And mind you, I was I was around where when the OG Mako video dropped and how huge that record was and for the culture and the fact that you did that video, even though it was simple hotel room, security at the elevator, super simple, but it's one of those videos that never go away, you can say. And then to add to that, you did the little Yachty video as well, which once again I feel like was one of his biggest records in his career thus far. Shout out to everything that he's doing as well. But just want to say I appreciate you, my guy.
Likewise, I appreciate you for having me.
Definitely. And before I close it out, is there anything you wanna say before we wrap it up, sir?
Just want to touch real quick on two of the kind of ongoing projects. One, I am putting out music. Would love for you guys to listen to it. I just put out a song on Sound XYZ last week that sold out within a minute. So really happy about that. And then I'm also working on my project that I pinned up top, which is 2,222 glass faces. It's part of my long-term project, Impermanent Digital. It's basically AI-generated portraits of me with the intention of creating an artificial history, artificial public record around me, and raising the question: what happens when anybody can proliferate their own likeness? Um, we're seeing it happen right now with apps like Lensa that have just hit the mainstream. So I think it's a really important question, and my goal with this project is to spread these images as far and wide as possible. Um, Billboards, wheat paste posters, all sorts of things to really push this legend and this kind of artificial story out there, and really raise the questions like, what happens when this hits the mainstream, which it's hitting it right now. So yeah, would love for you guys to check it out. It's just at 2222.glass. You can read all about it. And yeah, I think that's all for me.
Yo, Josh, you're amazing. Thank you for pulling up today. Super grateful for you taking the time out. I know you weren't feeling that well. Hope you feel better, my guy. And thank you for your support. And if you need anything from me, please reach out and I'm here. Oh, hold on. My bad. My bad, Trish. My bad. I'm not gonna forget. My bad, Trish.
What's Trish got? I appreciate you, by the way. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of
I'm
course.
definitely feeling a little bit better, feeling energized after this combo.
Word. My bad, Trish. I didn't see you, my friend. How you
No,
doing?
that's okay. That's it. Spaces is being weird. You're so humble, so hard, like all the things. I wanted to ask you about that viral Instagram campaign that maybe everybody knew about and you were behind. And maybe you might want to share that little bit of trivia because I think people would be interested.
Thank you,
Which
Trish.
Thank you, Trish. Which one are we talking? Are we talking Cash Me Outside?
Yeah. But I
Okay.
want to know the other one too then. I only know that. I mean, who only know that one? I don't know.
It's part of why I'm humble is it's hard to keep track of all these different projects. Um, but yeah, I helped with Cash Me Outside Girl, as many remember. Danielle Brigoli. She had a viral moment on Dr. Phil back in the day. And then she kind of started to transition into music. And I helped with a little guerrilla marketing campaign around that, where essentially I made it look like I had hacked her Instagram. I started posting these videos kind of in the style of Anonymous, like the hacking group. Um, Basically, put a countdown clock on her Instagram, all her socials. People really thought she got hacked. We basically teased that we were going to drop some info about her in a few days, and just kept dropping these little kind of scary videos. You can see them on YouTube if you look up "Cash Me Outside Girl Hacked." And yeah, within 3 days, I think she gained around 3 million followers. All eyes were on her, and then we just dropped a music video on the third day, and that kind of kicked off her music career. And pretty sure she's gotten certified on a bunch of her songs and had a pretty successful music career. So yeah, feel free to read more about it. There's some articles out there. There's a lot of speculation at the time, but yeah, that's an example of another project that like I was behind the scenes on. Didn't really advertise too much about my involvement, but constantly trying to create moments in culture and um, you know, really like get people thinking and doing something a little bit different in the approach, especially around like marketing campaigns and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Trish. I always forget to bring that one up.
What's the other one? Do you mind, Zach? Sorry, now I'm curious. Now
No,
I'm
no, by
taking
all
over.
means. Go ahead, by all
What's the
means.
other one? What's the other one?
Other one, no, I think that was the main one. I mean, I've definitely done some different schemes over the years, but yeah, that would be the main one that I would reference.
Super famous,
I,
super
I,
humble.
I feel
I
like
know.
Trish knows something that we don't know, and she's not saying. Is that
I
is?
think I do. Like I feel like there definitely is more. There's like so many layers to the onion and he doesn't like talk, it's all like matter of fact. Like, oh, have you seen my portfolio? Like, oh. Like, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's like little Yachty and Toby Lou is my best friend.
I'm just an
Yeah.
artist. I just stay in my studio. I'm just heads down working. I'm not the best at advertising the portfolio, but that's why I appreciate you, Trish. You come in, you remind me about the portfolio, you encourage me to promote it. So yeah, I
Retweet the
appreciate you on that.
portfolio, everybody. Yeah. Yeah, I love you.
Portfolio's fire. Trish, thank you for the questions. You're amazing. You already know. GlassFace, Josh, appreciate you, my guy, and thank you guys for all tuning in to Sunday Dinner. I know it's been a quiet week. Everybody's in Art Basel. Everybody's on the flights heading back home from Art Basel. So I'm glad you guys are here today. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in.
Hey.